as entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, we want to grow our business. We want to make a huge difference. But many of us, we're frustrated. We're having single-digit growth. It's just, incrementalism. We're trying to figure out what's missing. And you know what? There's just one simple thing. And we have a guest today who is going to help you. It's Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, and he's going to share with you why focusing on your mindset, that 10x growth, 10 times growth, is so much easier than that incremental growth. Stay tuned. This is one you don't want to miss.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
Dan, I am so excited to have you here today. I mean, it's the power of technology, the ability to transform and share you with my fellow entrepreneurs is just an amazing opportunity. So thank you for joining us.
Huge opportunity for me too, John. And I just want to show and tell people what I've discovered of where entrepreneurs can go because of the new technological world that we're living in.
Well, it is. And, if you think about it, I mean, Dan, you and I have had the opportunity, the last 4 years I've been in strategic coach, and we've been friends for an awful long time. And what I'm seeing, and you and I are both doing, and we're doing it really today, is technology is such a great facilitator that many of our fellow entrepreneurs don't need to be frustrated. Just a few little changes in their life can make a huge difference. One of the things I'd love you to explain so we get the framing for this whole podcast is 10X. When you first came to me and you said, John, you need to think bigger. And a lot of times I thought big. And I got caught up, like many entrepreneurs, in this concept of incrementalism and just kind of growing, and then all of a sudden you shot this 10x, and it's changed my life. And I want our fellow entrepreneurs to hear from you as well.
Yes, I think what you have to understand with 10x is that we live in a fundamentally different kind of world than 40 years ago. So 40 years ago, I started paying attention to how the microchip was going to change the economy and change society. And the big thing is that it's based on a concept, it's based on a law, which is called Moore's Law, which says that the speed and power of a microchip doubles every 18 months. And that has just utterly changed our world. 40 years ago, there were no personal computers. 40 years ago, there was no software applications. 40 years ago, there was no technology like the one we're using. And 40 years ago, there was no internet. So people were disconnected. So they thought in terms, as you mentioned in your introduction, John, they thought in terms of incremental growth. If I can just go 5% or 10%, because that's what the world that they were trained in actually allowed. And most industries are still fixated on that type of linear growth. And the difference between linear growth and exponential growth is that growth multiplies itself. So I began taking a look at how entrepreneurs really thought about things. And I said, well, what if you just had a mindset, a normal mindset, that you were going to look for everything that could help you grow 10 times? Pick your time period. If you do it for 10 years, it's 26% per year. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who've had years that are 26%. If you come closer, it gets higher than 26%. If you go further out, you pick your time period, but you can grow 10 times. And just by taking advantage of the opportunities, the capabilities, and the resources that you already have, but looking at them from the standpoint of what contributes to 10 times, what doesn't contribute to 10 times.
No, it is such an amazing time to, when I started working with you, Dan, and we started doing 10X, prior to that, I wasn't using video. And another good friend of ours, Joe Polish, was walking around with a flip phone and taking these videos. And I guess I was doing a little video, but I would bring a film crew and spend, as much as $20, $30, $40,000 really in a day or two. And all of a sudden now I saw the power of using technology, that it was oftentimes the content that was much more important than the medium, if you will. And you've blazed that trail, yourself and with Joe and others. And what I wanted to do is just have people think about this 10X and why it's so important. What a difference it made to me was that we went ahead, and when I was looking at incremental, and I've had a number of businesses and we've had good growth. I'm a big believer in having at least 20% growth per year, not more than 40 because it gets disruptive there, but at least 20%, because then you can attract not only the right teammates, the right strategic partners, but the right clients. And it's so easy, and particularly after the 2008, 2009 financial downturn, to not only not have the 20% growth, but have this incremental. And that mind shift, Dan, of all of a sudden going 10X was really freeing. Because I know we had the technology and everything, but I didn't really have the ideas of how to do it differently. And I think that's something that we want to encourage all the entrepreneurs to really think about, is that by forcing yourself to think 10X, it's just an amazing process.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to give a comparison. Let's say someone is going for 2X growth, which in the normal world, if you double your growth, that's really interesting. And I'm going to compare that with 10X. Now, what I've noticed, because I've been working with entrepreneurs for 40 years on this, is that your mind does two totally different things in moving from 2X to 10X. In 2X, actually, you're not actually looking at the future. What happens is people immediately look backwards at the past, and they say to themselves, I wonder if I can go double my growth. It could be income, it could be profits, could be, new product offerings, some area of your life you want to go 2X. But the natural inclination is saying, I wonder if I can pull this off without really changing anything. So funny enough is that if you're thinking in terms of twice the growth, you actually embed yourself in the past, compared with if you move over to 10X, your mind immediately goes to the future and you say, okay, I want to pull my present into the future, and what part of the past actually gets to come along with that, and you immediately start looking at everything around you, your clients, your customers, your support team, your technology, every aspect of your entrepreneurial life, including your lifestyle. Your lifestyle may not be supportive, and you start making decisions. And John, the interesting thing is, each person who's watching this in the next 90 days can make three what I would call negative transformations and three positive transformations that will immediately move them very, very quickly onto the path of 10 times growth.
Well, and it's, and I want to give an example because it's really what you and I are doing today. This came out of the 10X that, we look at from, I'm going to go to lifestyle first. You and I have got on planes for the wrong reason, to go do keynotes or trade shows or professional shows and so on, and invested a lot of time, energy, and money as we're bringing this message out. And at the same time, we've really, we've refined our messages over the years, and we've got an awful lot of friends and a great network that we want to introduce entrepreneurs to. And we said, how could we do it different? Well, we can leverage and create podcasts and, this whole Accelerating Entrepreneurial Success series, the conferences you and I are doing together, the podcasts, the webinars. I mean, Dan, this is one of the greatest outcomes for me, and I hope our listeners and viewers, that this 10X mindset, the big change.
Well, here's the thing, John. You started this after you were 50. Like your great breakthrough technologically happened after you're 50. I just celebrated my 70th birthday. So a lot of people say, well, I'm a little bit too old to actually be getting into this. Actually, this is the best time, because when you've got a lot of experience, you're able to differentiate the activities that really make sense from those that don't, because you've had a lot of experience. You've got a lot of trial and error behind you. So actually, the technological revolution that we're going through actually, I think, supports people with a lot of experience more than people who are just starting out. But the other thing is that let's just use trade shows and conferences as an example. I made my living for 25 years off traveling to trade shows and conferences and being a keynote speaker. And then I just noticed, boy, this is just a lot of work for not very big return. You've got, about an hour or 90 minutes of actually really productive work, but it's in three days of waiting and sitting around and talking to people you don't want to talk to. And then you got the plane flight back and you got all the expenses. I always take a team with me. I'm talking about $50,000 to $60,000 a crack. And, John, you've done things which if you add them up, they're like 1/60th of that or 1/50th of that, and you're reaching far more people and you're getting a much bigger result. And I think that's what the microchip does. It allows you to get massively bigger returns and at very, very low investments. But the other thing is, you only get that if you've got the mindset that's actually looking for that type of capability and the opportunities. And it goes totally against the grain of the traditional ways that people look at the business world.
Yeah, no, I just want to amplify what you're saying, Dan, because what really we're doing. I'm not even sure this is 1/60th of the cost type thing, and this is I'm 58, and you just turned 70, and we're looking at and some people would call us old. You and I are getting younger every year. We're working on that, but what happens is we may not be the most technically proficient individuals, but we know how to find them. And for people that, whatever you are as an entrepreneur, whether you're selling, widgets or you're selling, intellectual property, the $1 million engagement, the $100,000 widget, the software application, your ability to amplify and reach your audience through this technology has never been better. You can own the platform instead of counting on PR and trade shows and, press. You now can have it. And I mean, Dan, you've been leading the charge on this.
Well, here's the thing. I'd just like to go back to the word that you used, John, technologically proficient. It's not a case of being technologically proficient. It's a case of being technologically purposeful. And there's a huge distinction there to be made. And what they find is, here's a little test. They have 20-year-olds do a web search, and they do 50-year-olds web search, and they do 20 of each, and they find hands down the 50-year-olds will clean the clock of 20-year-olds in doing a web search, because the 20-year-olds get seduced by the technology and they say, hey, this is really great. I can do this and I can do that. Meanwhile, the 50-year-olds just find what they're looking for. Yeah, and they find it very fast. And I think that's the big thing. You have to have led a strategic lifetime using normal ways of operating. And John, you and I have come up through the sales route over the last 30 to 40 years, and we're very purposeful and we're very strategic. And I think any entrepreneur who's got 10 years experience is 100 times more purposeful than when they started. Now you just multiply that purposefulness with technological capabilities, and that's where you get the incredible multiplier. That's where you get the 10x.
Well, and this is, this is so important for all of us. And, I think of it as, we need to be good users of technology. And, Dan is, and his organization, certainly we are as well. And if you want to accomplish great things, this is how you do it, is you can use technology no matter what you're doing. But before you think of using the technology, you've got to have that 10x mindset so that you know what you want to amplify and attract to you. Now, Dan, we want to do a little bit, this is kind of also doing some of the backstory. And one of the segments, let me just play the segment, is that none of us get out of life unscarred. And, Dan, you've been doing this for 4 decades now. You're really, I think that I can't imagine anyone else who's the top coach of entrepreneurs out there, and great organization. It looks like it's just been a steady climb. Has life ever intruded for you?
Well, yeah, and this is another interesting thing. How do you become purposeful? And my sense is you become purposeful through pain that you don't want to repeat. So it's not that successful entrepreneurs haven't had mistakes. In fact, they've had 10 times more mistakes because they take risks. But every time it doesn't work the way that you want it to work, then of course there's some pain, you're frustrated. And then the whole question is, do you actually learn something from that? So, I always consider one of the most important days of my life was in 1978, August 15th, 1978, John, when I was both divorced and bankrupt on the same day. I was divorced in the morning and I was bankrupt in the afternoon. And these are official. These are like diplomas. You just graduated from a school and they give you 2 diplomas. And what the 2 diplomas say, you're doing things really stupidly, and you've got to really change the way that you're looking at it. And so from the hindsight, looking back at that now, I don't see those as negative experiences at all. I see them as tremendous transformations of telling myself what I really wanted and what I didn't really want. And before, John, I talked about that every 90 days you can tell yourself 3 things in your life that you have to eliminate because it doesn't belong to 10 times growth. Every 90 days you can add 3 things or reinforce 3 things that you're already doing. And just by going back and forth between elimination and increase, get rid of the negative, get rid of the activities which actually deprive you of energy and actually increase the activities that increase your energy, you can actually make tremendous progress every 90 days, then do that for 4 quarters a year, then do that for, 12 quarters in 3 years. And you're already operating in many areas of your life at a 10 times level of performance and results.
Now, this is so valuable that, doing it, thinking quarterly. We want to have the big vision. We want the 10X, but then breaking it out into quarterly processes is just so powerful. And one of the mistakes I think we make as entrepreneurs, Dan, is this concept of going ahead and literally working on our weaknesses. We think we're broken, and end of our career we're going to have strong weaknesses. So I never understood that. We can hire people there and bring them in and magnify the opportunity. Dan, tell me. Let me hit this one segment. I want to go to your passion. What are you most excited about now that you're working on?
Well, actually, I've got 2 areas, John. One of them is that we have a program in Strategic Coach. It's a very elite group at the top of Strategic Coach in terms of performance and results that we call the 10 times group. And I'm coaching hundreds of entrepreneurs, and they all have the potential of what I would call a game-changing idea, a game-changing concept or tool or skill. And what I'm showing them is that just by focusing on this game changer and gradually getting rid of the activities that really don't have real growth potential, that they can make incredible breakthroughs, and that if they stay with that really for the rest of their life, they will almost be the top person in their industry. They'll be the top person in their market. And so I'm very, very excited about that. And you're one of them, John. So I have about somewhere between 6 and 10 in various grades where I just want to work with the person because they're doing such exciting things. And I just turned 70, and I've set my game plan for 95, that at age 95, I'm going to be just as excited. I'll be just as motivated as what I am doing right now. And because of that excitement, because of that motivation, I'm going to keep myself in great shape. I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to be fit. I'm going to be energetic. And I'm going to just work more and more with individuals who have a big vision for themselves, and they're very talented, and they're very successful, and they're very ambitious, and just to spend the next 25 years doing that. And so my eyes are only seeing people who have this ability, and my ears are only hearing about people who have this characteristic. So this is, at age 70, this is just the finest, most enjoyable, most motivating period of my life right now.
Well, and I want to, it's really helped me, Dan, a lot. And I think what I want to share with our fellow entrepreneurs is, we had this conversation because it was not that long ago. It was your 70th birthday, and you sent me a an email and an audio file and talking about your life extension and how you're going to be focused on the next 25 years. And I know another friend of ours, Peter Diamandis of Abundance, Peter in X Prize, you got Peter to put together a mastermind group for 25 years, his commitment, you would help him. And then you showed me your life extension, that what you're planning to do the next 25 years. And I had my 15-year plan. So, I mean, you made me raise the bar 25 years. But and the reason why I'm bringing that up for all of us, this is so important, because when you recognize that, you know, if you want to live the next 25 years, you might as well live it well and define it. And then really, what can you accomplish over the next 25 years with the knowledge you have as a successful entrepreneur, the network you have, the capital that you have, the foundation you have, and all this technology and help that will leverage whatever you want to bring to the market. I mean, this is such an exciting time to be alive.
Well, John, first of all, how does it feel moving from 15 to 25? You know, I mean, you extended.
I did, and I'm pretty good about the medical side, but I went to the doctor yesterday again. I gotta make sure I got everything in order here. And
yeah, and there's going to be lots of help from the technological world, the scientific world, the medical world. So if you have the purpose to live 25, the support systems and the capabilities and resources that are going to become available over the next quarter century are unimaginable to us sitting here where we are today. And I think that's the whole principle, is that you're catching an express elevator where most people are used to taking the stairs. You're not just taking an elevator, you're taking the express elevator. And that's not just in your area of health. I mean, just look at your communication reach. You couldn't have imagined what you're doing today just in this podcast that we're on right now, John. You couldn't have imagined this 5 years ago, but the big reason is you didn't have the purpose 5 years ago to actually take advantage of these tools. The moment you got the purpose, you became almost like an incredible seeker out of almost any kind of technology that had this multiplier capability. Okay, so we're really, this mindset that I talk about, it seems like it's going to take you a long time, but you could actually have the mindset within the next hour. You would just commit yourself and say, for the rest of my life, I'm going to look for, I'm going to listen to anything that relates to 10 times growth, and then I'm going to look at what I have right now and say, does that get to come along? And you're going to make some decisions and you're going to make some choices. And yeah, I think it's wonderful, because we're getting past that notion that 50 or 70 or 80 or 90 actually mean anything as far as a person's actual capabilities and ambitions. I don't think it means anything anymore. I think we've, over the last 20 or 30 years, we've passed completely out of that way of thinking.
And I look at the best years, the future is so much brighter ahead than it was in the past, where so many people are looking backwards. But Dan, one of the things that helps, and you've done some work on this, and it's a segment we call the App of the Day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, apps are the great explosion, that have happened. And, they really, when people talk about the technological transformation that's taken place with the microchip, where it's showing up most is essentially around the world is really with iPhones. I think we're pushing 4 billion people now, more than half the global population who have iPhones. And Apple was really the great, the great pioneer here, because they just opened their platform for anybody who wanted to create an application. They're over, they're well over 1 million now, the number of applications that people have created. And so, I think in the future, people's lives are going to be more and more organized and designed by the apps that they have on their iPhones or iPads or the tablets that other companies make. But this is really, and I often think that corporations will be like online platforms. I think school systems will be online platforms. I think whole industries will be online platforms. And I think more and more government is going to be online platforms. More and more we're going to go to this platform world where people custom design their lives and their futures through applications.
Well, and I want to give a mention to an application that you put together with your team. And one of the things we're both big on is gratitude and really appreciating what we do. And there's so many studies on happiness and positive psychology of how this can help our fellow entrepreneurs. You went ahead and created an app for that. Why don't you mention that, and I'll pull it up on screen.
Well, what I did, John, is I created the original paper form. And this, I think, is I'm very, very good at creating thinking tools on paper, but then I've teamed up with, programmers, and I've got great project manager. This is actually Kathy Davis, who, is my #1 project manager for taking my ideas and making them real. And she teamed up with an application company who were very, very skilled. And we created this platform, which is called WinStreak. And just a step back a little second here is that for the last 25 years, every night before I go to bed, I've reviewed the 3 wins I had for that day. Doesn't matter what kind of day I had. Could be an up day, could be a down day. But before I go to bed, it was an up day because I just reviewed the 3 wins that I had. And then as a second step to that, I just looked at tomorrow and I said, well, if I had these kind of wins today, what kind of wins am I going to have tomorrow? So I did this little preview of what tomorrow's going to be. So I go to bed feeling very positive about the day I've lived. I go to bed feeling very excited. And I do that every night. That's just a habit. I wouldn't go to bed without doing WinStreak. So I've done that, and then I converted it to a paper tool, and people got a lot of value out of that. But over the past 2 years, we've been able to convert this into an app, which is totally free. Anybody who wants to download WinStreak, it's fabulous for children. If you get children started on this, a lot of them have iPhones at a very young age, and you can just train them on this. And just think about a person going through their entire life who goes to bed happy about the day they've lived and is looking forward to the day. What kind of productivity, what kind of creativity, what kind of cooperation is going to come out of that? And that's just one app, but we've gotten very high marks in a lot of the online reviews about this app. It's spreading really quite quickly. It's completely viral because we give, it's free, and then we're adding a lot of features to it. It gives you congratulations, and it notifies you that it's time to do your 3 wins. So we're very, very happy with this, but we just feel part of a huge avalanche of new capabilities that are coming on board. And it's not like, it's your iPhone. Your iPhone is one of the most amazing technologies that's ever been created. Your cell phone is one of the most amazing breakthroughs in technology for personal empowerment that's ever been invented.
Well, Dan, let's go the next segment, which is the book of the day. And I know you are an avid reader, as am I, and why not? It's the cheapest intellectual property any of us will ever acquire. But what's a book that you want to share with your peers today?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest book, and it's had the greatest impact on me over the last 2 years, is, you mentioned Peter Diamandis. I think it's his book, Abundance, because Peter is probably the most connected individual on the planet right now as far as cutting-edge technologies, and how virtually every part of life on the planet is just going to get better in ways that most people on the planet don't believe right now. It's going to happen really fast. And Peter, Fortune magazine, about 4 months ago, named Peter one of the 50 most influential individuals on the planet. But this book, if you're only going to read one book for this year, and if you're only going to kind of use one book as your foundation for the rest of your life, I would get Peter Diamandis' book, Abundance. I keep reading it. I've got it on my computer, and I keep outlining passages from it. But I've never seen a person who is more alert, more curious, and more responsive to breakthroughs in exponential technologies than Peter is.
Well, and I love the book, and you and I both know Peter well, and we're in his mastermind group too. And Peter, I mean, I love the subtitle. I think it's the future is better than you think. And it's so easy to get into what you call the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. And it's a great book for that. But Dan, last segment here. What would be the one insight? I mean, you've got books of quotes, you've written many books, you've got 40 years of experience working with some of the top entrepreneurs in the country. What would be the one insight that you would want to share today with our audience of these very successful entrepreneurs?
I think the biggest one, if I look back over 40 years, which seems to be constant, it would be focus increasingly on your strengths and delegate all your weaknesses. Okay, so, a lot of people, the schooling system actually teaches people to work on their weaknesses, so you're a well-rounded person. You're a well-rounded person, but you're not a purposeful person. Okay, you're not a strategic person. You can't work on everything. And just the amount of effort and time it takes to work on your weaknesses, which in fact are never going to become strengths, if you can take all that time back, if you take all that effort. But I think more than that, John, I think if you can just take back the mindset, that's a stupid thing to do in the first place. And you just focus and say, where am I really good? And just focus more and more on that. And then outside of that, find people who are much better than you are. Like, you're much better at doing what we're doing today than I am. And so naturally, I'm just going to sort of plug into what you're doing. I'm just going to get on board your platform. But I have lots of people like that in my life. I'm not going to learn this, how you put these together so incredibly easily, it seems to me anyway, and magically. But I have other things that I'm developing, that you can utilize, and we can trade. We can trade strengths. And so I think a world where you're only trading strengths and you're not involving yourself in weakness is the way to go. And this really cuts against the grain. People say, well, you develop character by working on weaknesses. And I said, probably not after about 10 years old. Once you get beyond 10, you better just go for the strengths. And I think parents should keep that in mind when they notice that their kid is incredibly inventive, but he's really, really bad at math class, or whatever the reason is. Let him alone. Just let her alone. Just go after the strengths. Just reinforce where people are really great. Yes, his English isn't really great, but he's an amazingly good seller. He sells things. He's persuasive. Well, go with it. Just go with the flow. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, if that would open up their mind to the 10 times mindset, because the 10 times mindset is where you've gotten rid of all of your weaknesses and you're just focusing on your strengths.
Well, let me play back what I heard. So the key takeaways that I'm going to encourage everybody that's with us today, whether you're on the video podcast and you're going ahead and watching us, or you're on the audio podcast, is these three key takeaways. Number one, the 10X mindset. I think this is just so critical. The ability to think in the future, not in the past, to work on what's broken, but envision what's possible. Two, the ability to have gratitude. I mean, we have a great tool Dan's put together and his team, Winstreak, and to take a look. I mean, one of the things I love so much is recording those wins. And at the end of the day, you're there. I literally, I got my iPad and I'm doing it in bed. I just do it the very last thing. And what I like to do is reflect on those. And when you start seeing that pattern, it's amazing. The third key takeaway, Dan, that I've got that I want to make sure all our fellow entrepreneurs have, and it's a big one, is the ability to focus on our strengths. You talked about the schools being set up to teach us, how to get better on our weaknesses. It's all on our weaknesses. Well, in today's world, if you're going to do 10X and you start thinking about all the things you can't do, then you're never going to get there. But once you go ahead and focus on, all you've got to do is your unique ability, that your top strengths and find the rest of the people around you. I mean, those are just phenomenal. Dan, how am I doing?
Yeah, that's really great, John. I think that the biggest thing is, I always say that the people who focus on their strengths own the world, and the people who focus on their weaknesses work for the people who own the world. And it's just that simple, that the people who just lay a bet down on where they're really good and they keep with that bet and they keep raising the bet throughout their life just get more and more confident, more and more clear, more and more capable. And that's really the essence of entrepreneurism. The beautiful thing about the world we live right now is that because of technology, it favors entrepreneurs. And in the entrepreneurial world, it favors the entrepreneurs who are focused on their strengths, because they're the ones who are going to go 10 times.
Okay, no, I totally agree. And let's give them some resources here. Dan, one of the things I'm going to pull up on the screen, your website, 10X Coach for Entrepreneurs, all kinds of resources. And then at aesnation.com, you're also going to be making available the 80% Approach book. Tell us what that is.
Well, again, John, just to follow up on strengths and weaknesses, I have a strength, and I think you do too, and that is we can get things started really good. I'm a great starter. I'm a very bad finisher. So what I've decided is to just focus on getting the first part of the project done, which for me is actually just telling other people what the project is, what the purpose is, what the results are going to be, why it's so important. So what I do is I create a document and then hand it off to another person. So one of the things that I think of is of a square, if you think of a square, and that my first part of the job, starting it is really the most important thing. Somebody's got to get it started, 80%, and then the next person takes it another 80%. So we're at 96%. Then another person takes it another 80%. Now we're at 99%. And this is the way things actually get done in the world. It's not everybody doing the whole job by themselves. They're not doing it perfectly. They're just doing that part as fast as they can, as well as they can, handing it off to another person who has completely other strengths and passes it on. So I've got a download for you. It's an ebook. It's audio that will just take you through the entire logic of this. And I've had people who have never been to Strategic Coach, who've never met me, but I'll meet them somewhere along the line, and they'll say, just this one, listening to this, reading this, has just changed my life. It's changed the way that I do teamwork at the company. As a matter of fact, it's changed how I cooperate in every part of my life.
Dan, and I want to thank you because it's made a big difference in my life too, and my team and all the people that I have the privilege of working with. And again, thank you for joining us, sharing your insights. So much appreciate everything that you're doing to help fellow entrepreneurs really accelerate their success and make the world a heck of a lot better.
Yeah, and John, I think that this thing that you're doing with the various platforms that you put together is just going to grow quarter by quarter, and you'll be sitting there at the 25-year mark, and you said 25 years, let's go 50.
I'm there with you, Dad. And also with our fellow entrepreneurs, let's go take these resources, these key takeaways that we talked about. You can go to aesnation.com and get all these resources. We'll have a transcript of this. You don't want to miss this. Share this video with your friends, but most importantly, your key relationships, so they're on the journey with you. Let's go make it happen. Wish you the best.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. aesnation.com